welcome to another episode of Design Under Influence. Today, we're going to talk all about how to manage passwords for your organization. This is one of the critical components of running your firm successfully. So your team can securely and safely access the applications they need to do their work. And then, by properly organizing those passwords in an electronic password manager like LastPass, which is what we're going to talk about today, we think is the way to go. But here to help me unpack this story and get deeper, we're going to do a little screen sharing and show you a little bit on the high level how to set it up. Is my co-host, friend, and a CEO of a company called ArcIT, Boris Rappaport. Boris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening and watching us.
Yeah. Speaking of listening and watching, today marks the day that we went full on the podcasting network. So, up until now, it was all video, and that's great. So you can still find us on YouTube. We're going to publish each episode on YouTube for those of you who are more visual learners. But we've also integrated all the previous episodes, I think about 35 of them, into a podcast network. So on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you get your podcasts, now you can listen in, learn, and help your architecture, design, or engineering firm grow and thrive, because these kind of technology issues that we cover are pesky sometimes, but certainly will provide you with significant advantages if you're able to solve them. And that's what we're here for, help you solve them. So let's get into the topic, Boris.
Let's do it, Alex.
Managing passwords, brother. This is, you helped me set it up for my other businesses. In the past, I've used LastPass for many years personally, and now using organization-wide. You have a bunch of customers who use LastPass. But first of all, tell us, give us the reason why at this day and age, right now is a good time to consider using kind of integrated electronic password management system.
Well, the answer is fairly simple, because in order to maintain sanity and to keep the services that we use online or in other places, to keep them safe and to keep them from, being hacked, we need to use complex passwords, and we need to use different passwords for each one of the sites in order to make sure that even if one of those passwords gets leaked, we're not compromising all our other services. So for us to remember all those complex passwords, we would not be able to do that. As humans, we can't do it. So that's why we need to use a tool, an electronic password manager like LastPass or 1Password or Dashlane. We need to use one of those tools to keep all our passwords in one place, easily accessible. So that way we can only remember that one password that needs to give us access to this tool, and that's it.
Let me ask you a question on actual utilization. And what percentage of our clients would you say out of the get-go use one of those tools you mentioned?
I'm going to say about 80%.
Okay. That's a very good number. All right. And so I think that's something definitely worth considering. So let's dig deeper into this. Step one is say, okay, I think I'm going to do it. Can you tell us a little bit about what the selection process may look like? Maybe some very high level differences between the three you mentioned, and also maybe bring in some cost into the equation. What does it cost typically for an organization? Let's just mock it up with let's say 25 people organization.
Okay. Yeah. So I think on the selection process, all three that I've mentioned are very similar. And if you go with either one of those, you're not going to be wrong. All three of those are business grade password managers, which give you additional tools to where you can actually share passwords inside of the business, change things. We're going to talk about how to organize a little bit down the line. But yeah, you're able to set up an organization, and you're able to, limit passwords visibility to different people. So I guess as part of the selection process, you want to make sure that you're using a business grade type of solution. You want to make sure they have an app or a plugin for any of the browsers that you're using, or any of the operating systems that you may be using. So, if you're a Mac office, you need to make sure that the tool that you select works on a Mac, and make sure that you can, if you're heavy Safari users, that you have a plugin for Safari. So thinking along the lines of how it's going to integrate into the rest of your business is very important. As I said, all three of the ones that I've mentioned will cover all bases for your business. But if you're trying to look outside of those three, then, make sure you're paying attention to interoperability, and also the fact that it's going to be a business solution and not just a consumer grade, because there's a lot to that on the back end. The solution actually has to be certified for highest levels of security, because it is a password manager. Like if they get hacked, you're basically giving the bad guys all of your passwords and information regardless. So that's very important to choose the right one.
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of refreshing. I mean, I personally use LastPass on both Macs and PCs, and it's refreshing that it's something that can be used. It's kind of almost platform agnostic, browser agnostic. It will have, apps for each browser, each platform. So that's kind of great. What about once we select the tool, say we're going to use LastPass because we both use it and we implement it into other companies. And by the way, a little piece of advice: after you listen to this podcast, if you have a temptation to go ahead and take care of this important aspect of your business, reach out to your IT firm and get their advice and get their help to configure it. I don't know if this is something you should be doing on your own as a sort of leader in the organization. I wouldn't. So my advice is reach out to your IT guys. If Arc IT is your IT guys, reach out to us, because we still have 20% of people who don't use it, which we need to solve for that. But anyway, so once we got the tool in LastPass, let's talk about setting up the structure, the org structure. How does that work conceptually? Well,
conceptually, it works as any folder structure would, right? So a folder or a container that has a specific set of passwords. And what we recommend, what we usually set up for our clients is, you kind of repeat the departmental structure that you have in your firm, even if it's a smaller firm, right? You have accounting, you have HR, you have marketing. So you want to make sure that the way you set up this password manager tool, and we're going to say LastPass in this example, the way you set up LastPass is that you create structure that mimics, your organizational structure in the real world. That way you can easily invite people and remove people from those specific passwords that only they need access to. For example, HR is probably the most sensitive. So it may be you, the business owner, and then whoever your HR consultant is, and that's it, right? The rest of the company doesn't have access to it. Same thing with accounting and finance. It could be you, your bookkeeper, if they're your employee, or somebody you're outsourcing your bookkeeping services to, and maybe a CPA. So doing it that way will help you easily understand who needs access to what and manage access when people leave.
So by department?
By department, yes.
Got it. And so how would department break in the sort of architecture firm, like in operational? I just want to go dig just a little deeper here, because you have different level, right? You have designers, you have some people who kind of assist, and you have some people who deliver actual designs to the end consumer. Is there like a breakdown of the org structure you recommend there?
So I don't think that there's really a need to segregate that out because most of the roles you mentioned probably have access to similar tools and same level of tools. It's more of we need to break out more sensitive information. And as we mentioned a few minutes ago, it's HR, finance, maybe marketing, because nobody else needs access to marketing, right? Except for the marketing department. So breaking that out is probably the best way to go. Got it.
Now, you've also mentioned the pre-show, you meant setting up a policy. Can you do a high level? What is a policy, org-wide policy? What does it entail? What sort of policy? What sort of the things go into the policy that are important?
So when we say policies, it's basically configuration settings in your LastPass environment or Dashlane or whatever. And those can range. I mean, I think right now LastPass allows us to configure up to 60 different configuration settings and policies. But I think there's a few that are very important. One is making sure that you're understanding what happens when a person leaves. So there's a policy that controls that setting, and you want to make sure that you enable the administrator of the LastPass account to take over the passwords of the person who left. Because one of the benefits of the business password manager is the fact that when people put passwords in it, and therefore your business tools, you have the ability to control those passwords. What you don't want to happen is somebody, let's say in marketing, goes in and they set up MailChimp and they create their own username and password under their email, and then they leave and and you don't have the policy to take over that password in LastPass. Basically, when you delete their account, that password goes with them. So you're not going to be able to reset it. You're going to have to start, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort trying to reset the password and get that access back. So, that policy is very important to be able to take over your employees' accounts. Another policy is, should we allow our end users to reset their own master passwords, or should only the administrator be able to do that? From a security standpoint, we want to make sure the administrator has control versus individual users having control, because if your individual employee gets hacked or their email gets hacked, we don't want their LastPass password to be easily resettable. So those are the things that we need to kind of think about and consider. And we help you, if you're working with us, we'll help you. And, if you are doing this with another IT provider, they should be able to walk you through that as well.
Perfect. All right. Maybe we should get into a little show and tell and just do, again, high level flyby on what the tool looks like and how does the conceptualized configuration of it. I promise you it'll be fun and engaging, because the tools are pretty good and very user friendly, but we just want to show a few things for those of you who are actually watching. But if you're just listening, we'll help you I'll do a little play by play and help you kind of follow along. So Boris, go ahead and share your screen.
So on my screen right now, what we're seeing is a brand new LastPass account. And this is a LastPass business account. And, I'm logged in as the administrator of it. Is that okay to see on the screen? Are you seeing any?
Yep. I'm seeing everything. As for those who are listening, we're seeing a LastPass log in with blank information, look in the search box. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So first thing I think that we need to look at is basically how do we create a password or a folder that contains passwords, right? And as I mentioned, based on those folders, we can give permissions to different people in different departments to have access to those passwords. So I'm just going to click on Add Item. That's the little plus sign here.
Plus sign on the right bottom.
Yep. And then I'll give a name for what this account is. So let's just call it, I think we're stuck with marketing, so let's just call it MailChimp. And we can say MailChimp admin login. We don't have any folders yet, but we can try to create a folder here. Let me see if this works. Marketing. Okay. And then we give it a username, which is usually the email address. I'm just going to use one of the email addresses, my email address. And we can put a password. So whatever password we used when we sign up for the account, and most of the time this will be automatic. As you sign up, it'll ask you to automatically add the account to LastPass. But since we're doing it as a demo and we're doing a manual creation, we can put in the password here. Now, the really cool thing about LastPass is that you have a password generator tool, which will allow you to generate any passwords of any complexity instantly. So let's just say we're going to stick with the minimum requirements.
So with LastPass, let me just kind of just go over this one real quick. So with LastPass, you can generate a password on the fly as you're signing up for services, resetting your password for existing services, and you can tell it to how many characters. If it's easy to say, easy to read, use all characters, upper, lowercase, number, symbols. So no matter how complex the requirements are for whatever site you're signing up for, LastPass is able to generate random password based on those requirements, which are really, really easy to tweak as it's sort of giving you suggestions on what that password is.
Yep. So I'm just going to take this suggestion of 12 characters, upper, lower number, and I'm going to copy it out of there and paste it into here just to confirm I can look at it and we can save it.
Now, the URL above, there was a little bit of that was the first field in that box that we just filled out was URL. And that URL is the destination. So it'll be www, like MailChimp.com, right?
Yeah, correct. And if I went to MailChimp and got that URL, I could have put it here. Once you're doing this, and actually what we should try and do is maybe look at creating an account online. That's probably going to be a good one too.
Okay.
So let's just go to MailChimp. We'll do a sign up. And I'm just going to use my Yahoo email address. And we'll generate a password here. And we'll use this password that it asked us. Oops, sorry. The username is brappaport@yahoo.com. And we'll generate the password. And it requires an additional special character. So
this is it. So as we're signing up for MailChimp, it actually required a symbol. And so what Boris is going to go do is go back to the password generator, which is, again, easy to pull up right on as an app on your browser, and then let it know that, hey, we need a new password with a symbol. So it qualifies. I don't think you need to press the sign up. I think, or do you want to actually show how it saves password?
Well, I want to show how it saves the password. Yeah. But also one thing here, if you're running, when you're running the plugin for LastPass in your browser, which allows you to automatically save passwords, it also on many sites will show this symbol here, which I don't have to go to the generator here. I can just generate a password right from the website.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. So, I did not know that.
So, and I can say, fill that password.
Wow.
And now it actually asks me if I want to save that password. And I need to move this window down.
You don't need to sign up. This is very clear.
So I'm just going to say add. And that puts it in LastPass. Now there's some organizational things that you may have to do on the back end afterwards. So as I mentioned, we may have to do some additional things on the back end here to organize. But as you can see, the one that we manually created and then we specified a folder is already in the folder that's called marketing. Now what we can do with this one is also move it to that folder to make sure that all our marketing stuff stays in there. Now this one will also have a login page already. So anytime we go to the site, it will automatically allow us to fill the information into the site, which makes it really easy. So basically, this kind of shows that we can either add stuff manually if we need to, or we can add it directly from the site once we visit the site. So I think what I want to share next is the way that we are, inviting other people into the folders. And actually, these can be people outside of your LastPass organization. They just need to have a LastPass account, or when you share it with them, they can create a LastPass account and gain access to the passwords you're sharing with them. Or these can be people internally that you're sharing with that are part of the marketing team, let's just say. So we can go into the shared center here. We need to add a shared folder. And basically, it'll create a folder called shared marketing. Now, the caveat here is when we create a shared folder, it basically creates a brand new folder, and it's done for security purposes. It wants to make sure that any passwords that you're sharing with people are going to go into this shared folder, right? It doesn't allow you to share it right away from that marketing folder by default. So we can click on manage here, and we can invite people or groups. As I mentioned, this can be external or internal. We can give them permissions, If it's an administrator, it means that they can invite other people and give other people permissions. You can also set them as read-only to where they cannot edit the passwords, but just look at what the passwords are. And you can also set it to hide passwords so the people don't actually see what the actual password is and they cannot copy it out. They can only kind of go to the website and then automatically put that password in. So if you have, for security purposes, if you have like temporary employees or people that, require minimal type of access, you probably want to, have it set to hide passwords to make sure that they don't know what the password is and they're just able to log in and use it that way.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think this would be a good place to start. Do you think, Alex, do you want to look at anything else in here?
I think this is great. I think from here on, I would recommend going this route. Use it personally for yourself. Go configure LastPass if you're not using it yet. Use it for yourself, kind of poke at it and see how really, truly useful this is. And then reach out to your IT team and ask them to integrate LastPass within your organization. The one last thing I want to say about cost, like what does it cost? Is it per seat? How do they charge?
Yeah. So if you're using it for your business, so there's a free version of LastPass, right? Which is basically a one person can use it on one device.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. I was on a free version for like 2 years.
Yes, you were, but then they changed it because you could use it on multiple devices first. Yeah. And then they changed it to only one device, which makes it more limited.
I'm happy to pay though. It's an excellent service. Yeah,
for sure. So why I brought up the free version is it makes it easy for you to try it. However, if you want the business version, it basically costs, I think it's $450 per seat for the team version. And then if you want the enterprise, which gives a lot more additional features, like integration with your Active Directory if you're using it internally, integration with many other tools that you may be already using as part of your IT, then it's $6 a user a month. I think, $450 is a good plan to start with for your business, and that will allow you to have those shared folders, share them internally with people, organize your passwords properly, take over passwords of people who leave, and do a lot more additional things. Now, I guess one more thing that I wanted to share here, which is basically a security score. It tells you how safe your organization is. And as you can see, for example, do you have any passwords that are at risk? And that means they're not complex enough, or they have been found on dark web, right? So the dark web monitoring here actually checks for passwords that have been found on dark web. Multi-factor authentication, I think, is very, very important to have set up for this as well. You want to make sure that, since this stores all of your security information for your whole organization, when people log into this, they should have a second factor authenticating them. And this is a demo environment, so we don't have it set up. But in our, in our account, obviously, we have that set up to make sure that no bad guys can gain access to this. And then you can also manage devices that you trust and permitted devices here as well. It will show you what they are once you have that set up. And these are devices that, if it's your laptop that's always used for business and it's secure, you can add it here so you don't have to do the two-factor authentication every time. I think you do it once every 30 days. So this is a great tool to kind of understand where you're at. And as you can see, we're here at 80%, which is pretty good. We want to be at 100%. Once we set up multi-factor authentication, it's going to get us higher. But it tells you like where people in your organization are. And you can also run additional reports on individuals and how complex their passwords are so that you can say, hey, can you change the password for this? It doesn't look like it's complex enough. LastPass is telling me it's too easy. So there's a lot of additional tools here.
So if you do like security audits or similar kind of exercise, war gaming your securities, might be a good idea these days. Figuring out where your potential holes are, or your IT provider is actually, trying to help you make sure you stay secure. This is a good piece of your business. Being on the screen, I guess, and looking at the security level of your passwords is probably very crucial. And for an it's about $100 a month for a 20-some person company. I think that's a very small price to pay for the peace of mind, and also the time savings you will have from onboarding and offboarding employees and adding new tools and systems into your organization. So with that, I really appreciate you guys watching and or listening. Look, we're solving IT so our customers could do their best work. That's what we're all about. We're Arc IT. And if you need help setting up your own password management tool, we're here for you at getarcit.com. Boris, thanks a lot for your overview today, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. We'll talk later.
And see you all soon. And thank you for watching and listening. Goodbye.